This video is all about actor headshots, specifically the headshots that actors need when they're starting out, and more importantly, what they don't need. Welcome back to Adorama TV. My name is Gary Hughes, and today I'm going to show you the process for how I create some basic actor headshots. And to start with, we're going to be working with my good friend Caleb from Spectacle Photo and the incredible Megan, who's going to be our model today, who is a veteran entertainer here in Central Florida. And I want to walk through the process of what you might have to give a client when they inquire about acting headshots. And so there's a lot of misinformation out there because people want to get deep into shots that you don't necessarily need. It's important to remember first that it's not your job to create somebody an entire portfolio in one shoot. And more often than not, if they're starting out or coming back to acting after having been out a long time, they don't even need that. So what we're going to photograph today is a basic commercial headshot, something that's a little more upbeat and warm. Think commercials and maybe sitcoms, and then a theatrical headshot, which isn't necessarily serious, but it is more emotionally specific. Because the goal of any actor when coming into acting for the first time or coming back after being out of it for a while is always going to be to get representation so that they can start doing auditions and callbacks and booking those jobs that actually make them money. And in order to get representation, you need a commercial and a theatrical headshot, and that's what we're going to do today. So a couple of notes. I typically shoot everything in portrait orientation. That would be vertical, because that's just kind of how these things work most of the time. All of these things are done online. All these thumbnails for casting and switching orientations back and forth is kind of annoying for people to have to do. So when I'm photographing actor headshots, I'm almost always photographing in portrait orientation. The other thing is you'll notice I'm photographing Megan seated, where I don't normally photograph subjects seated unless it's specifically a part of the look. This is just kind of my own personal way of doing things. There are two reasons. One, I use height a lot to tell the story, and it's easier for me to adjust the camera height to get lower to give them power, or higher to diminish them depending on the character look we're going to shoot, than it is to put them in a box or get them to lower down. It's just a little bit easier to control the height of the image. The other is, I don't know if this is experienced with everybody else, but when I photograph actors, they tend to be more fidgety. Does that ring true for you? Yes, absolutely. Like, so they just, everybody has their process of getting into character and being on camera, and a lot of that involves a lot of pacing and bobbing up and down. So I photograph actors seated almost always, with some exception. All right, here we go. So let's start nice and easy. Even when I'm seated, I'm typically going to direct people from the ground up. All right, so, and Megan's been through this process with me many times. All right, so what I have you do, Megan, is go straight back, but loose shoulder. And now we're going to bring your face and head a little closer to the camera, almost leading with your nose into me. Good. All right, and now we got the position right. We'll focus on the expression. And so we're going to go just generally sort of neutral and then move into like warm and upbeat. Let that small smile touch the corners of your mouth and invade and pinch the bottoms of your eyes a little bit, just like you're really pleasant and up for it. Like you're waiting for me to tell you that we're going to Disney for the day, and you know it's going to happen. That's beautiful. All right, perfect. We've got a really solid start on this with the lighting, and you'll notice if you look at the image, which we'll put up on the screen, is that the catch lights are great, the eyes are really well illuminated, and the light is mostly pretty flat. We're going to save some of that directional, dramatic, high contrast lighting for some other theatrical and character looks, but for right now, I'm pleased with this. The thing that I want to change that's going to separate a headshot from the other headshots that a casting director or an agency might be interested in is creating depth and playing with color to create a more interesting image. Because right now we're just using an unlit kind of white wall, and I'm going to start to build a little more three-dimensional space just by using a few things I've got around the studio. These doors I got from a photographer who was closing their studio, and I got to be honest, these doors are probably the most requested background when people go to our website and they book. Everybody wants the doors, even though they don't know exactly that they're doors. So what I'm trying to do is essentially just create a little bit of color and texture. This is just going to be out of focus in the background. I don't want the background to distract from the subject. The star of a headshot like this is the face, is the expression. The color harmony, the background, the lighting, it should all support the face. You should get there first. And so I've picked something that's kind of warm and neutral that's going to be in the same vein as kind of the greens and the reds and the browns. And then I'm going to add these two lights These strip lights are going to shoot across and they're going to illuminate the background, and they're going to add a little bit of color pop and separation on the back of Megan at the same time, which is going to do really well for her hair color, which is going to be super unique. All right, so let's see what that looks like. So now we're going to take a couple of shots just to see the difference that a little separation light and just a touch of color and texture in the background makes. So the background's still fairly neutral, but it's just got a little texture and a little bit of warmth to it that's going to support what we're already trying to do. So Megan, we go up from the bottom, lean on your right side just a little bit, tilt your head a touch, and then forward like nose first into me. There you go. Now add that warmth, that small like you know something that I don't. Good. Chin up just a touch. There we go. All right, now I dig that. So let's take a look at this side by side on the screen. This is the neutral background versus the background that we added. And it really could be anything. It could be just a studio background or a canvas backdrop that you already have. It could be poster board. It could literally be almost anything. All I'm trying to do is add just a touch of color and texture and a little separation light just to make the image a little more visually interesting. So now we're going to throw in those side lights to light up the hair. And we should have ourselves a really good commercial look. All right, up tall, loose, tilt, and leaning in. And I think it's important also to note that you may have to give subjects the same directions over and over and over again, because every time you turn away to adjust something, their brain's going to go, okay, let's get comfortable. And so try never to make anybody feel uncomfortable by the fact that you're repeating yourselves. In fact, I tell my clients all the time is, I'm going to tell you the same thing 50 times, but your brain's just trying to get comfortable, so you're not doing anything wrong. All right, and I'm going to go a little straighter. What I have you do, Megan, is turn your feet a little to the right. There you go. And then leaning on your right hip. Perfect. And now I'm going to have you move through the frame. Hair looks pretty good. Can you take your hair on your left side and just make it so it's going out a little bit more? Yeah, that's perfect. All right, digging it. And that fact. All right, straight. Tilt a little. Leaning in a little. And then add that warmth. Good. Now throw a couple of full smiles at it too so we have that option. I think the general rule, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is that if you're smiling with your teeth in a headshot, it's going in the commercial pile, pretty much. Yeah, usually, right? But not all commercial headshots are showing teeth either. So having that range, I think, is important. See, I got backup on my theories here. It totally works. All right, a couple of direction tips. If you're working with somebody new, Megan's really good at following directions. She's been doing this longer than I've been doing this. And so if you've got somebody relatively new, giving people like a scene or something really familiar can help them draw out the right expression. You have to take responsibility for your part as the photographer in getting the best out of your subject. That's what's going to separate your experience from an experience they might have with somebody else, is that you have to take responsibility for everything that's going on in the scene, including how comfortable they look. It's important that they look like they're supposed to be on camera more than anything else, like they're comfortable where they're at, because the whole idea is for a casting director to be able to see where this person fits into a production. And if they look the part, they might just get that call back or get asked to put something on tape for an audition. And so that's the thing you're trying to give them. So I'll give a couple of examples of direction for commercial headshots that I do. All right, Megan, I want you to pretend it's your first time. Okay. Now, if it's your first, yes, you close up on yourself, right? Like you pull away from the game, you close up. That's all right. Okay. All right. This is what you'll get. I'll just take a picture of it. That's what you'll get on somebody's first time, is you'll get, they pull in. Psychologically, you're always trying to protect your guts, your soft underbelly. Like, you know, that's what you're just doing this thing. So it's getting people to open up, getting their face closer to the camera, and then the last thing that you do is give them something to help them get there expression-wise. And so I think that a scene works. So I'll give you a scene. We'll go up, we'll relax, lean again, and then forward. Good. And so we've got everything where we need it to be. So start neutral. Just relax all the muscles in your face. Good. And now I want you to think of, and don't say it out loud, I want you to think of a dad joke. You got it? I got some good pirate jokes that are possible. There it is. Okay, great. And now what I want you to do is I want you to smile like you're out somewhere and you ran into somebody you like. You know how like you will secretly hide in the grocery store from somebody you don't want to talk to? The opposite of that, like you see somebody you really love and you're like, oh, hey, like that's the vibe. All right, ready? Up, loose, leaning in. but not like crazy. You're like, oh, hi. So just even say hi when you do it. Hi, there it is. Beautiful. And now you know that thing we do like after you have a big laugh where you're immediately remembering the laugh that you just had, and we go, ah, yeah, that's a vibe. All right, up tall, tilt a little bit, and then go, ah, yeah, those are great. I love that. Okay, perfect. So we just nailed the commercial shot, and we've given Megan some great options expression-wise, and now we're going to move on to theatrical. Now, remember, theatrical covers kind of a really broad range of ideas. Essentially, it's anything for film, TV, streaming, and even as far as stage and theater. But theatrical is just kind of the general catch-all term. And underneath these are also a lot of character work, specific character shots that we're not going to really get into. Just think of what we're doing today as you're not photographing the actor portraying anybody else. You're photographing the actor. And so what we want is a little more emotional specificity. And so we're going to run through a range of expressions in a look that's a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more, fetching as far as contrast goes. So for this lighting setup, instead of bouncing a light off the wall, I moved into a 34-inch octabox real close, along with that Westcott iLighter 3, and that's going to create some light that's pretty soft, but it also falls off quickly with a decent amount of drama. You're going to get much harder catch lights that are going to make those eyes pop a little bit more. And then I've changed those strip lights in the back. The first one is just breezing across like it was in the previous setup, and that's going to be illuminating the background a little bit and providing a little bit of separation on camera left on Megan's right-hand side. Now the other strip light I've turned a little more on an axis toward Megan's left side on camera right, and that's going to give us a hotter edge light. And so one of the things I like to do a lot is to create a punchier edge light opposite from where my key light or my main light is, and that's going to create a little bit more drama, a little bit more interest. And now finally, for a finishing touch, and you don't have to do this, but I take that little 8100 soda can light and with a little rubber snoot on it, and I just pop a little bit of light on the background coming from the same direction as that punchy edge light. Imagine if there was a light source over there that was hitting the background and hitting her at the same time. And so that kind of like motivated lighting is something I'm trying to simulate in a shot like this. And so the overall effect is that you're going to get something just a little bit punchier. So I'm going to run through a range of a couple of different poses, and you're going to also notice that we changed Megan's hair a little bit, and she kind of did this by instinct, and this is a thing that we do a lot in sessions. You're trying to get as many variations on a look as you can, and moving hair around just a little bit is a great cheap way to get an extra look, or something like adding a pair of glasses, taking out a pair of glasses, putting a jacket on, a jacket off, where you can get a lot of bang for your buck just by adding in or moving a couple small things around. So this is something that I really like to do, is pull hair back on one side and let it cascade down the other side, and that's just a really cool way to get a slightly different look in the same situation. All right, Megan, you ready? All right, so you go up straight, and we'll start just straight on, and I've lowered my camera angle here, and I think that this gives a lot of emotional presence. So, people tend to sometimes, photographers that is, take a high angle because it can be flattering in the way that it might carve out your jawline because you're turning up towards the camera. But in reality, what you're also doing is you're making someone smaller, and you don't always want to do that. I'm trying to give Megan some authority and some presence, and so my camera angle has dropped by about 8 inches to make her a little more present, a little stronger, and so we're going to start here. Now, with that expression pretty neutral, what I want to do is to get you to just engage with the camera a little bit by leaning forward, and then we're going to go just a slightly more intent look. Okay, so you're looking at an obstacle that's in the way of where you need to go, all right? And now I want to have you just lean into me a centimeter more. Good. Raise your chin ever so slightly, and what that does is that's going to give you a little bit of like confidence, even standoffishness can come from that. And now if you lower the chin just a little bit, it almost looks like you're getting ready to charge or you're trying to get away with something, and those little movements mean a lot. And now what I want you to do is add like a 30% power smirk in both sides of your mouth, just like you know something that I don't, while you're kind of intently leaning into me. Good, and now keep that expression and raise your chin a little bit. That's awesome, and let it touch your eyes just a little tiny bit more, Megan, if you would. Yeah, there it is, boom. All right, so now we've got some really different looking shots, and all Megan had to do was change her shirt, and now I move the lights around her, but we've got very different looking images side by side. So let's compare what these two kind of look side by side. Is you're going to get something that's a slightly higher angle, a little more flatly lit, something that's really upbeat and warm, and then you're going to get a slightly lower angle where the light's a little punchier, a little more contrast, that's going to give you a lot more confidence and strength vibes. And those are going to be two very, very different things. Those are two great examples of shots that an actor might need in their portfolio. So let's move around this look just a tiny bit more and show you a couple of the other things that you can do with it. Remember, when it comes to an actor headshot, more than you might do with almost any other kind of session is that an actor and potentially an agent do want to see a lot of variety of expression compared to some other areas of photography. Where you might show someone 10 or 12 proofs, for an actor it might be more like 30 or 40, because those emotional nuance are going to be really, really important to that final product. All right, Megan, what I have you do is to turn your feet slightly left, like there you go. And now keep in, your brain doesn't like it when your face and your chest are pointed in different directions, right? But so if you drift, I'll get you back there. Bring your wrists right here close to your body. And that what I'm doing there is just having Megan's arms off her body without having to worry about doing anything. And that's going to give some really cool posture. So I typically just have people put their wrists right there at the top of their thighs and then relax their shoulders and arms. And it'll create some really nice arm position and posture. So we go up a little bit, relax your shoulders, tilt your head a little bit this way and turn a little bit that way. All right, we're going to do that same kind of strength vibe, but lean on your hip like 1 degree, like this way. Yeah, perfect. And now chin forward and up a millimeter, and now like a little hardening of those eyes and a little bit more intensity. So I want you to look like somebody who enjoys beating people up. That would be cool. Very nice. All right. Nice smirking, very evil, very powerful. I love it. All right, and now we're going to warm it up just a touch. Real kind of like pleasant type A, number one on the call sheet vibes. All right, we're going to go warm and strong. Think Steve Rogers, Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot. There you go, perfect. And then lean a little more left. There you go, perfect. And then chin out a little bit more. Now I want you to take a breath. Let it all loosen up. And now I want you to go a little more serious, a little more sober, a little more thoughtful, and even add a little bit of sadness into that, just a touch, like you've seen a lot. In a session like this, you're not just the photographer, you're kind of also the director, and knowing what to draw out of somebody really helps these be successful. So even in just 2 short, relatively simple to pull off looks, you can give somebody more than what they need and a ton of variety to get started. Now, in this video, all about just showing you kind of the basic headshots you need. You've got that commercial headshot and you've got that theatrical headshot. And we'll save it for another video to get into some character work, which I'm really looking forward to doing. But for right now, don't forget, if you want to check out any of the gear that's in the video, you can look in the description and find links to everything. And thank you to Caleb and to Megan for being a part of the video today. So don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video. And I'll catch you in the next one.